Hi, you may remember a couple of months ago my family and I went on a road trip. We drove all the way from Indiana to Texas in one fell swoop. Actually, the first day was a series of smaller trips. We did take 2 days to get there, but we did the trip back all in one trip. So during that time I compiled some advice and I wanted to pass that on to you. Now, first of all, as everyone knows, there are certain products and things that that a lot of people feel necessary when going on a road trip. And part of that is true, but the things that I'm going to share with you are the things that worked for us. I can't guarantee that all of these things would work well for you. We traveled almost 1,100 miles with an 8-month-old and an almost 3-year-old. And they're boys, one of whom is very, very active and also in the middle of potty training. So that kind of added an additional element that was maybe different from other kids who may be already potty trained or still in diapers. So a couple of things that I found were must-haves for us. And obviously the answer, especially if you have toddlers, is snacks. Lots and lots of snacks. Now we pulled over and got fast food and whatever when we could, but we can't do that every single time our toddler gets hungry. And so we packed a lot of little things, little cereal, granola bars, cheese crackers, those types of things. And we didn't really pack that much fruit. We did pack some grapes and I believe some apples. I can't remember exactly. I know we packed some grapes. But yeah, the snacks is probably the most important thing. Leave all the toys at home. If you have snacks, you're gonna be okay. Another thing that goes along with that is drinks. Now, it being a road trip, you don't want to have too many drinks because that increases the frequency of urination. So yeah, you be the judge on that. But especially with little kids, it's important to find the most leak-proof, spill-proof cup that you have. Whether that's something with like a little spout on it or a straw cup or whatever you found works best for you. Another thing is, especially with us, we had a potty training almost 3-year-old and he did fabulous. And we thought, well, what happens if we're in a long stretch of highway and we can't get to a potty? Well, that's why we brought our little portable frog potty on this trip. And we packed that with a roll of toilet paper and also a squirt bottle with or a spray bottle with water and alcohol mixed so that we could sanitize it if we needed to, and of course wet wipes. And we put that right at the foot of his car seat, so that was right under where his feet were. So that worked out really well. We actually never had to use it, so that was great. He was able to tell us in time, and we were able to get to either a gas station or a McDonald's or whatever and use the bathroom. Another thing this is kind of random, and we didn't learn this until we were on the road for a while, but our son will not wear sunglasses. It doesn't matter how bright the sun is, he just will not keep sunglasses on. And so if the sun was coming in the front window, I learned that I needed to have something to block it. And it ended up being a page from a sticker book that I just had here, something that has some structure to it, not just a little piece of paper, but something that that will stand up. And that worked out perfectly because I could just hold it. I didn't have to hold it up like this, just kind of resting my elbow on the door. I was able to hold up that sheet of paper to block the sun from his eyes. Because when the sun's in their eyes and they won't cover their eyes or do anything, they throw a tantrum and it's not pretty. Another thing that we learned not long before we went on the trip, my husband we both have iPhones, and my husband found the iExit app. Probably one of the best apps we used that whole trip. What it does is it shows you, and then upcoming exits, what's there. Gas stations, food places. In the stretch that I was driving, I really, really, really wanted Starbucks. There was like nothing Starbucks-wise. The closest I could get was McDonald's for an iced coffee, and it was kind of pitiful. So, you do what you gotta do. But I figured there would be a Starbucks somewhere off the road so that people who need coffee can get coffee, especially those who are not coffee drinkers like me. Something that Another thing are CDs or favorite music that the children like, and of course something that you can tolerate. We brought a CD of Bible songs, that's what Caleb calls them, and it's hymns, it's old choruses and stuff like that. And there's some good songs in that, but the singing, the children's singing was just so annoying. We couldn't even make it through a couple of songs. So that's something, just like a lot of things in your home. If the kid likes it, that's great, but if you can't tolerate it, not good at all. As far as art, you know, coloring, things like that, crayons are great and all, but we learned the magic of Color Wonder by Crayola. We got Caleb 2 little coloring books with bubble guppies and cars, and bought some of those Color Wonder markers. It was amazing. And now that we've had them for several months, those things still haven't dried out, and they're open a lot. Caleb is not so good about putting the lid back on them. And it's amazed me how they have stayed, you know, wet and not dried out completely since we've had them open for so long. We'll just find a marker, you know, strewn about somewhere on the floor, and it's amazing that it works. Now, if you're not familiar with Color Wonder, it's a line of products from Crayola, and it's everything from finger paints to watercolors to markers and things like that that only work on special paper. So they can color the walls, and I mean, the marker is going to get on there, but it's not going to show a color, it's just going to be clear. And so, not that we want to encourage marking on the walls, but Caleb is not so good at, you know, staying on the paper. He's still kind of new to coloring, and so we wanted to make sure that he didn't make a mess in the van. Snuggle items that they like. I actually sewed the boys, you probably saw in my previous video, a little shark blanket, and Caleb loves to cuddle with things, and so he had his little stuffed shark, he had his blankie, his little blue blankie, and the shark blanket that I made, because sometimes they would get cold in the car, and it's nice to have something familiar to snuggle with, especially since we were going to a place that they didn't know well. In my other video, I also talked about the bag system, where I went through all the different color bags that we had and all of the little trinkets that we put in there to play with on the road trip. Well, my follow-up to that would be get about half as much, if not less, of what we got, because we didn't even make it through all the bags. We made it through all the movies that were in the bags, but as far as the activities, you know, he spent hours on just the coloring, and then he would sleep for a while, and so we didn't need near all the stuff that we bought. Now, Mike bought some portable DVD players that went in our van, and they were pretty awesome. We had some Samsung, I believe, and they worked great. There was one DVD player that I kept in the front seat with me. I watched a little bit while Mike was driving, and then we had one that was strapped to the headrest because Caleb sits right behind me, and he was able to watch his movies then. I thought we were going to have the DVD player on like the whole time. I was thinking this is not going to be good, but we're actually able to balance it pretty well, so it wasn't on all the time. I think we watched Frozen 2 or 3 times in the whole trip, so I didn't think that was too bad. Something that I didn't realize was going to be so important until we got on the road was, of course, my essential oils. I said something on Facebook when we were on our trip. I said something about how the road trip was long, both the kids were screaming and stuff like that, and a friend mentioned essential oils, and I thought, oh, well, of course, I brought them with me. I may as well use them somehow. And so what I did was this was kind of mind-blowing, but I took out the stress away. Actually, I take that back. I took out the lavender, and I was having really bad allergies, so I did the allergy swipe, and I can talk about that in another oil video, but my allergies just blew up when we got to Mississippi, I think. Yeah, when we got to Mississippi. And so I put a little lavender by my nose, and I thought, well, you know, maybe that can help with the boys being calm, because lavender is something that's calming. And I put it next to the air conditioner vent and just kind of held it there, and that didn't do anything. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll just take a more aggressive approach here. So I did was I took the cap off of the Stress Away, which is actually one of my favorite oils, And this was when Caleb was okay, but Braden was screaming in his seat. And he usually loves car rides. He's not a big crier anyway, but yeah, when he got in the car and, get that car moving, he is pretty happy. But at one point, I think he was just over it, like all of us were just over it at some point. And I took the stress away and I just held it next to his car seat. I reached back and I just held it next to his car seat and kept it there for about 8-10 seconds. The crying stopped, you guys. Mike and I looked at each other like, whoa, this is crazy. It was like immediate gratification. And so I kept holding it there for several minutes, and then he fell asleep, and that was it. So we pulled it out a couple of times. It wasn't 100%, it wouldn't like calm them, take them from screaming to calming and asleep every single time, obviously, but it made a huge difference that one time especially. If you are taking a long road trip and you're gonna do it in several legs, meaning stopping at someone's home or going to a hotel to spend the night, one thing I would highly recommend that you do is to take all of your makeup, your clothes, your kids' clothes, beach towels, any of those things that you may need for an overnight stay in someone's home or in a hotel, and put those in a separate overnight bag. That way, when you get to the hotel, you don't have to drag out all of your suitcases and everything. You could just take out the one bag of the stuff that you will need for one night. Because who wants to dig through a bunch of suitcases for the things that you need just for one night? Not cool. And the last piece of advice I have to you is pick your battles, okay? That's just a good piece of parenting advice, but when you're on the road, when you're traveling, it means even more. There's so many things that are unpredictable, and some things you just have to roll with it, and some things you got to stand your ground. You don't need to pick every fight, and then that goes with a lot of things in life, but especially with your little kids. Know that this is hard for them, so some things you need to kind of let them deal with, but on the other hand, like I said, trying to keep things as normal as possible is important. So these are just my thoughts on a road trip with little ones. It's not an easy thing, but it doesn't have to be a nightmare. So if you have any comments, any ideas for road trips, please leave them below, not just to help me, but to help others who may be seeing this video. And of course, give me a thumbs up if you liked it. And to see more things like this, be sure that you hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye.